Hi, I'm Ellie,
And I'm Kat.
and you are listening to Virtual Ventures, the podcast for virtual assistants where we talk about what it really looks like to run your business behind the scenes.
Today we are talking about income ceilings as a solo VA and what your options actually look like when you hit that point. So, I suppose, Ellie, let's start out with what exactly is an income ceiling? Because I think there's probably a good few people out there who are living this, but maybe don't actually realize that there's a term for it or what it actually is. So maybe we should just maybe give a quick shout out to what exactly an income ceiling is and how to recognize when you've hit that income ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. What are we talking about here? And you're right, there will be people who've hit this but don't have like the term for it. Um, what we're talking about here is when you have hit the ceiling of how much you can earn. You've hit a
Mm.
block. You have reached maximum in your resources. You are not able to bring in any more money in what you are currently doing in your virtual assistant business.
Yeah, essentially, you're maxed out on hours and you essentially cannot work anymore without adding more, or you can't earn anymore, should I say, without adding more hours to your day. And as we know, we're all given the same amount of hours in every day, so that's not always possible. So when you do hit that where you've maxed out the hours that you have available to work on your business, and you've hit that kind of capacity and that limit with regards to the income that you can bring on that, then you need to be able to recognize that, see that, and go, okay, I still want to earn more or I need to earn more money. What are my options here? And that, I suppose, is really what we're talking about here today and what we really want to get into today, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. When you find yourself at that ceiling, maxed
Mm.
out in hours, can't earn any more money, but want to or need to,
Yeah.
what you can do and what options are available to you. Because that's the cool thing about this type of business. There's always options available to you. Like it's so horrible when you see people who feel kind of stuck in where they're at, and it happens to all of us. This is where we need to, have community and talk to each other about things because when you are stuck in something, it's very hard to see the reality. There are always options available to you. And this is one of those situations where there are options available.
Yeah, that's so true, actually. It's such a good point because we do see that. We see people
Mm.
suffering in silence and thinking as well. I think what comes in here, and we always talk about this, I think in all of our episodes today, but it comes up so much in our SVAI. What so much of this stuff comes down to is mindset. It's
Yeah.
how you approach things, it's what you're telling yourself, the stories that you're creating in your head about this. So, with regards income ceiling, where that kind of comes in is this narrative that, suddenly you start looking at others and what they're doing and what they seemingly, and we'll say seemingly as well, because again, we have,
So
Instagram
true.
versus reality situations that go on quite a lot as well in business and in industry in general. Um, but you've got this comparisonitis thing going in where people are almost afraid to admit that they're either at the ceiling or they don't know where to go from here. And they're seeing other people doing these things and claiming that they're making X amount. And they're going, well, how can I not do this? I know I can do the same. I'm talented. I'm skilled. I have expertise. Why am I not doing that same thing? So you've got a lot of stuff that comes in here. And there's other things that come in, I suppose, and that you need to be wary of to help you, I suppose, recognize that you've hit that ceiling and that maybe it's time to really assess and look at it. And that can be where maybe the frustration that you are working all the hours, but that your bank
Yeah.
balance is staying the same, right? There's that frustration that comes in. And then what happens with that frustration is the risk that sometimes that frustration can turn into resentment. And there's that resentment then that, like, why am I, I'm pushing myself here and I'm doing all the things and, I'm working so hard for these clients and stuff, but I'm not seeing the return that I want to see. And that, like I said, that frustration can lead to that kind of resentment piece where then you're at danger of maybe slipping up in your work. You're maybe, again, you've entering that mindset where you're putting that kind of block up and you're not able to see the wood from the trees kind of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that can come up around this. So recognizing that a ceiling can exist, why it exists, and what to do then really, I suppose, when you reach it. Um, and it looks different for everybody, doesn't it?
Oh my God, everybody. This is going to look different for absolutely every single person. And so I think it's important, yeah, for us to share our own experiences and
Yeah.
what, yeah, with for us in this. So what's your experience? Have you ever found yourself in your business that you've hit an
Yeah,
income ceiling and thought, what am I going to do?
Yeah, and I made that classic mistake as well of, the opportunities were still coming in. And again, I was seeing them as, well, if I want to make more, and I remember having a set target on my vision board that I had at home, and I had this target that I wanted to get to. But at that time, it was just me. It was me and me alone. And I did have a little bit of a mix of some packages and some hourly work, but it was primarily still everything was very much based about that hourly work. And so again, if I'm, charging by the hour, or if I've only got that certain amount of hours, I'm going to hit that ceiling. And what I was doing then, and what I made the big mistake of, was trying to increase that income by taking on more work and adding to those hours. So I was working evenings, I was working late into the night. I'm talking about late into the early hours, morning, and I was burning myself out. That frustration and that resentment was building up. And I was exhausted and tired. And yes, there was maybe a little difference in my bank balance, but was it worth it for me? No, absolutely not. So I knew there had to be a better way to do this, really. And
Yeah.
that, I suppose, for me is where I started exploring what my options were.
Yeah, yeah. So that's when you realized, okay, like I've hit the ceiling. I'm just
Mhm.
gonna use every other hour that's
Yeah,
available to me.
yeah,
So like the nighttime ones, but we're
yeah,
always giving something up, aren't we? Like we're giving
always.
something else up to use those
Mhm,
hours for work.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's always sacrifice at the end of that. And so it's just what you're willing to sacrifice and whether it's worth that sacrifice. And for me personally, I hit that point where I went, this isn't worth it. I started my business to spend more time with my kids, to be able to be there for certain things. And suddenly it was eating into that time. And for me, that was absolutely no. Something had to change, something had to shift. So I needed to look at what I was doing and I needed to address that straight
Yeah,
away.
that's one of the biggest things we see people doing when they do reach the income ceiling. And it's I guess it makes sense naturally in your head. It's like, well, I'll just work more. Like I'll just,
Mhm.
say yes to all these opportunities and I'll just extend my working hours and it will, but it does lead to burnout quite fast. And it is something we see quite often, even in our own community. But tell me, what did you do then when you were like, okay, like we've hit the ceiling, but what I'm doing isn't sustainable. What are my
Yeah.
options?
Looking internally at my business as well, it was like, okay, how can I do this better? And for me, it was really looking at, okay, who are my clients currently? Okay. Um, when was the last time I raised my rates? Okay, who am I
Yeah.
charging these rates to? So I suppose there's multiple ways, really, like, right? And I suppose the for most people, the quick and really easy way to do it is to look at the first thing that you can fix. And a lot of cases, that is your rate. Because sometimes when we start out in our business, we are charging a set rate, and many times when we start out, we go on the lower end of that spectrum to
Yeah.
start with, right? So if I'm looking at my client base and I'm thinking, oh my God, like I've been doing this now for however long, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, at the point when I'm looking at it, and I haven't raised my rates, you really need to assess that straight away and look at how you can raise those rates immediately. And particularly for those clients that started out with you. You need to look at your expertise. How has your expertise changed from the last time this rate was set or when this rate was given? Has my expertise, my skill level, has that improved, increased? Am I adding more value? With more value, obviously, there becomes a higher cost. We see that all the time as people specialize in things. Um, their value increases because the expertise is being really honed in on, and so they get to charge premium rates essentially for that. So that would be a big thing for me. And then it would be looking at, which is one thing that I did do more of, which was that package thing that I was talking about earlier. I
Yeah.
had a few packages on, but I didn't have enough. So I really looked at the work I was doing and how I could really package that up for clients into a really high level, high value offer for them that I could charge, a higher value, a higher rate for as
And
well.
that might be not time based. So
And
taking up, yeah,
exactly, it was taking away from that time-based thing.
yeah,
So it was task orientated, it was transformation orientated,
yeah.
not just hourly, not just like I'll do this within this hour so that,
Mm.
that ticks that box. It was looking at what I'm actually providing, the transformation, the results. This is what I'm giving you as opposed to X amount of hours for this task, or, by this task or whatever. So that for me was, I think they were probably two of the biggest things that I did first to look at those things of how I could increase my rates immediately. And
Yeah.
then there was a lot of other stuff, so which we'll get into. But for you, so what do you feel like, when did you hit that ceiling, and what changes did you make?
But no, 100%, I did reach an income ceiling as well. This is a good few years ago now, and I'd probably been at the ceiling for quite a while, to be honest. Because one thing about me anyway is that money doesn't motivate me. I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by, having my nice little life the way I want it to be and that type of
Yeah.
thing, and just having enough money to pay my bills and live my life, and that suits me fine. So I was happy out for a long time at that ceiling, but I hadn't really realized I was at it because I was happy with the way things were, with the money I had and the way I could spend my time. But then I realized, okay, I'm looking to get a mortgage now. I'm looking to buy a house, and that's when I thought, oh, okay, we actually kind of need to start bringing in some more to show the banks, right, that we have this earning potential, because the thing is, unfortunately, us self-employed people are seen as risky when it comes to the banks when you're looking to borrow for things such as a mortgage. And I knew that I had to increase my earnings a bit. And that's when I realized that I was at a ceiling. There
Mm,
wasn't actually anything I could do straight away easily. So I did look at all those things that we would recommend you look at straight away. For example, can I raise my rate? When's the last time I raised my rate? So I had raised it not long before. I was really good at keeping in line with that. And this is a good few years ago now. And to be honest with you, the rate I was at was the highest I'd ever seen for a VA at the time. So I actually felt like it's kind of normal now. It wasn't then. Okay. But
yeah.
then I was like, I definitely can't raise this anymore. I did it not long ago. I've not actually seen anybody else charging this, so I can't do that. And well, I felt that I couldn't. So I had to look at what else can we do. And I'll admit there was a huge freak out about it. I was like, how am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
Like it's really on the line to, I want to buy a house. At the time I'd been living in Dublin for years, paying the same rent. I hadn't really thought about it for a long time. So yeah, I had to look into it. And from there I started creating new things, is what I started to do. Because I was kind of fully booked client wise. And I
Mm,
was wondering, how can I help lots of people at the same time? Because when we are working with the one client, we are helping the one business, which we all love to do and we all love our clients. But when it comes to breaking past that income ceiling and diversifying your income, one of the things you might want to think is, how can I use my skills, my knowledge, or my experience to help
mm,
more than one person at the
mm,
one time? And so I really looked into my experience in the virtual assistant industry, is what I did at the time. This was back before the SVAI was very, very new actually, and I loved what we were doing here, and so I thought I want to do more of this. Like I just want to do even more of this. So I started introducing things out there to help people kind of all over the world who wanted to start a virtual assistant business or who wanted to grow theirs. And I ended up starting a podcast. I ended up creating all kinds of digital products for people that they could download, such as workbooks. I had an Etsy shop for a while, which I'll be honest, that was a bit of a pain in the ass. I actually wouldn't recommend it myself personally. It was just annoying. I mean, sell the digital products on your own website is a lot easier than doing it
yeah.
on Etsy. Um, and from there, I created group programs. So I had the Mini Mind was one that I ran for a couple of years. I think it was an 8-week program for virtual assistants who were kind of just set up and wanted to kind of bring things a bit bigger. And then I had another one called the Flexi Mind. I had loads of stuff. So I introduced all these different things essentially to diversify my income. And yeah, it did help me to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing when you really sit down and assess, like I said, because we can go on. And I love what you brought up as well is, and we do say this all the time again, is that everyone's situation is different. And that's important when we talk about an income
Yeah.
ceiling as well. Like it's your choice. Some people could hit an income ceiling. They've maxed out the hours that they want to work. They've hit a certain income. And if that's an income that you are really happy with,
Mm.
and you're happy to maintain that, and once you can maintain that, great. We're not saying they have to break through that ceiling and everyone has to
You
do
don't
it.
have
Not
to,
at
yeah.
all. Again, it's completely up to you. But if you are
Yeah.
in that position where, you need to or you want to break through that ceiling, there are options available. So we've already spoke about, yes, the Raising your rates, that's kind of one of the usual first ones that you
Yeah.
can look at. The creating of the packages. I love what you started introducing there now, which is, looking at other things that you can create. So how can you package up your knowledge into, rather than a one-to-one offering, into a one-to-many offering? Because
Yeah.
again, I think there's a quote from Warren Buffett that says, the key to financial independence is learning how to make money while you sleep. Right.
Yeah.
And so in a way, you don't want your business, or if you can set your business up in a way that, there's times, yes, when you're in it and you're there and you're doing the thing, and as you're doing the thing in that moment, you're making money as you're doing it. Great. But also, if there's a way for you to make money while you're not directly involved, whether again, you can look into associate work, outsourcing some of the inquiries that are coming into you and filtering that out into associates. You're building a team. We see a lot of people building agencies as well to
Yeah.
try and raise that so that they're not the ones doing the work. They're not the bottleneck in their business,
Yeah.
that they're filtering that out to others to be able to do that, and obviously bringing in something off the back of that. We do in SVAI have a great actual masterclass that I was just reminded of when we were deciding on this episode. And it's about creating those different layers of offerings. So when you
Mm.
look at it as, the done for you layer, which is the typical layer for online business
For us.
service
Yeah.
providers and virtual assistants, that's what we do. We're there with the client. The client is giving us the work, or we're taking on the client work, and
Mm.
we're doing it. We're the ones doing it. So we're doing it for them on their behalf. But then there's the done with you. So maybe you could look at your service and you could say, okay, I don't have to do all the things. I can support them through this. I can guide them. There can be a consultation piece, a strategy piece. There's a lot of ways that you can do this with them, but not the entirety for them. So again, it might limit the amount of hours that you have to put in, but for the service that you're providing and the expertise, the results, the transformation, all of the stuff we talked about, you can charge that higher level value for that because you're providing that with them. You're providing them something that they didn't have and that they need to be able to move forward. So you can charge that. So that's the kind of done with you service.
Yeah.
But then we've got the do it yourself version. So the
Yeah.
DIY version that you can offer. And this is what you're talking about with regards the digital products that you can
Yes.
create, the trainings, the courses, just these recordings that you can create and provide to a person. Because another thing for me when I was working was I really wanted to, or when I started my business, was I really wanted to help other people starting it. Because I
Yeah.
just had an absolute grow for people wanting to change things in their lives, wanting to follow their ambitions and their dreams,
Yeah.
wanting to realize their own potential and see something come to life that they've been thinking about and dreaming about. And so these people are starting out, and it was just a passion of mine. I really wanted to help others do stuff that I did, and give them the confidence to do that. But as a coach pointed out to me, they're usually the people that are bootstrapping and that maybe don't have the funds to be able to hire you to help them. So what I wanted to do was to create something for them where they would get some form of the support that I could offer, that I could package up the knowledge that I had, the expertise, and share it with them in a way that they could do it themselves and shortcut the way to do it, that
Yeah.
rather than hiring someone, they could shortcut the way to do it, so they still have to do it themselves, but it was giving them a shortcut to it. That was helping them to get on their feet, to get off the ground, and hopefully to the point where later on then they would be in a position where they'd say, great, you really helped me out at the beginning. I'm on my feet now. I'm making money. It's coming in. And now I'm delighted I'm at a position where I can actually outsource this piece to
Yeah.
it. Because regardless of whether a person, I think people get hung up on that a little bit as well, regardless of whether a person can do something themselves or not, if they can outsource that, delegate that, automate that, whatever, in any way, so that they don't have to do it and they can focus on something else, people are going to. So when people get to a position where it's a no-brainer for them to pay someone else to do something for them so they can focus on a higher level piece of their business, they're absolutely going to do it. And by creating that DIY piece for them, you're enabling them to get to that level where they can do that. So, and again, you're funneling them into your business to a point where you're generating a little bit of income from them for providing this service. You're generating more income, like from them, sorry, for yourself.
Yeah.
But also you're potentially creating a customer who's going to come back to you, or a client that's going to come back to you down the line as well. So there's a lot of like marketing and opportunity and goodwill and all that
The
sort of stuff.
relationship building from the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely
Relationship
all makes
building.
sense.
So like a lot of those DIY things, it could be like a video, it could be a,
Template.
downloadable PDF that they've gotten
Yeah,
or something. It's
yeah,
branded, it's got your face
yeah,
on it.
Yeah.
It's got your business name on it. It mightn't have cost them very much to purchase, but at the same time, the information is incredibly valuable to them. It's teaching them how to do something themselves, and they're getting to know you,
Mm.
which then means that they're building this little relationship with you that you don't even mightn't even know about.
Yeah.
It trustworthy wise, for business. And I have to say, when you've hit that income ceiling and you start creating kind of more passive things and passive income, there is nothing like that little buzz
Yeah.
than when you wake up in the morning and see the email that you did earn some money while you were sleeping. There is nothing
Oh,
like it. There
absolutely.
really isn't.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways to go about doing that and looking at packaging up your services. Um, the other thing I want to mention as well is where you can kind of more easily, I suppose, increase your rates or create those packages as well, is when you start to hone in on your expertise and
Yes.
specialize. So
Specialize.
obviously it can be kind of harder for a general VA. I'm not saying it's not doable, but it can be a little bit harder for a general VA who has very broad set of skills, great, but maybe doesn't specialize in anything in particular. It can be a little bit more tricky. But for those who find that area that maybe they absolutely love and are passionate about, that they're really seeing the results from, that they're getting that really great feedback from their clients, if they can really hone in on that skill or that offering and specialize in that area, that then they become that expert. They have massive domain expertise in that area that they can share and make a real impact and a real difference in other businesses. So for them to be able to specialize means that they can charge those premium values for their
Yeah.
expertise as well, or
Mhm.
those premium rates. So that is obviously another key part and way that you can assess what you're doing right now and see how you can reframe that or package that differently. Another one that I want to come back to, which was actually another big one for me, was looking at my client base and looking at the ones that were low level value for or low level return, I suppose, should I say, for maximum input and maintenance. So we do have this, and we see it all the time with that 80/20 rule. There's often in your business, you will see this 80/20 rule appear where there's 20% of your clients are probably taking up 80% of your time, you know? And it's usually those clients that maybe are the ones that they're not paying the most, they're asking for the most in return, they're possibly really stressing you out, they're taking up so much of your time. And they are usually the ones to look at and go, can I do without this client? And maybe look for a client more like this other client who's, causing me less stress, that is, great return, that's paying maybe higher rates, that's less maintenance overall or management. So that's usually another place to look at.
100%. You know what? Actually, that should be step two, really, or step
Probably,
one,
yeah,
actually.
probably, yeah.
So, like, we're saying at first you might want to look at your rate, auditing your client base. So, looking at every single client that you have and everything about them. How much are you charging them per hour? What's your agreement like with them? Is it hourly? Is it a retainer package? Is it task-based, time-based? Looking at what type of work you're doing with them. Take a look at all of it, because quite often legacy clients can be sucking all the energy out of your business and you
Yeah.
might not even realize it, right? So really what we mean by that is they're a legacy client that you've been working with since the very beginning. So they could be on a lower rate than everybody else if we
Mhm,
weren't
mhm.
raising our rates across the board the whole way along.
Yeah.
Um, so they could be getting way more value than they used to
Yeah.
for less money than everybody else. You may be providing services to people that you don't enjoy anymore. And when we don't enjoy what we're doing or we don't offer it to other people anymore, that can actually, it can slow us down. We can
Mhm.
procrastinate on it. That's wasting even more time.
Yeah,
Right? So it's
100%.
like we need to look at that. So no, for sure, auditing your client base is one of probably the first things that we need to do to just see where are the holes, like where are the holes in the business that we could,
Yeah.
because there could actually, maybe you do actually have time in there to
Mhm.
get a new ideal client in, or to upskill so you can specialize, or
Mhm.
to build out digital products or whatever, but they might be being taken up by something that
Yeah.
shouldn't really be there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. It's so, so key. And yeah, so like if we're going to recap on this,
Mm.
so let's start with that because I think like you're dead right. That probably should be the first one. I
Yeah.
think the easiest one to go
Yeah.
for. And I think that again, probably one, it's just looking at your rates. And by default, I think actually by, looking at those like legacy clients who, like you mentioned, you might
It
not have
raised.
raised the rates for. If you go to them and suddenly say we're raising your rates, that could do the job for you and
They could be like,
almost
sorry.
do that kind of for you. Yeah. But I think, yeah, let's recap. So we're talking about,
Yeah,
okay, you've realized one that you've hit that income ceiling. Okay, you're working all the hours, you're not seeing any difference in your return, you're getting stressed, maybe you're getting really frustrated about what you're doing, and you're starting to realize I'm not really enjoying this work anymore. Okay, we know now there's time for a change. There needs to be a bit of a
yeah,
shift here. So let's do that client audit. Let's look at what currently. So again, like we do always in our planning, the what's working, what's not working well, and what needs to change. So we look
yeah,
at it through that lens and that mindset. So we're looking at our client base. Okay, who am I really enjoying working with? When did I start with these clients? What rate am I at? Have my skills improved in that time? Do I
yeah.
need to be charging more because of that increase and improvement in my skills? The higher value that I'm now providing to them. So looking at all of those things, right? Then we make those calls of, okay, what can I remove or get rid of, let's say?
Yeah.
So who are the clients I maybe need to let go with love, as we like to say, and
Yes.
move on to, like you mentioned, we can move on to higher value clients or clients with different work, whether that's, we decide to specialize, we're offering something different, we're charging more, so we're getting new clients in that way. Or maybe we're just opening up that time to create those other resources that we mentioned, that
Mm.
DIY or the done with you resources. So we're creating those other income streams that we're not so reliant on the one-to-one, task-based work, that we're creating either packages, resources, templates, consultants, strategy sessions, there's a multitude of things that you can choose from.
Much stuff you can do.
But where it starts really is sitting down and doing that full scale audit, isn't it? Who are the clients I'm working with? What am I currently charging? Where is my skill level at from where I started out? How can I package this up into multiple different assets, whether that's, like I said, the one to
Yeah.
many, the digital products, whatever it looks like. Um, and from there, it won't be long before you're increasing that and you're bursting through that income ceiling, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always options available to you. I think that's one of the most important things that we can leave you with is that there is. It's so
Mhm.
easy to feel stuck when you're just there on your own, not sure what to do. But in this type of business, you're never stuck in a box. Do you remember our first ever
We
boot
oh
camp?
we love our boxes. We love the box. We love to
In
say
that
that.
first ever
Never
boot camp,
stuck in
we
a box.
said that so much.
Yeah.
You're never stuck in a box.
Oh my God, I love it. So, okay, so that kind of concludes this chat about, and we'd love to hear, I suppose, from anyone, any ideas that you have as well of what you'd like to hear us talking about. We've got a bunch of really, really cool episodes coming up that we're going to be chatting about. But anything you do want to hear, we'd love to hear from you as well and see what you want to hear us talking about. And we'd be really, really happy to do that. But one thing I want to leave you with today, I suppose, is just that question that maybe might kickstart and get you started on this is, if you could not add one more single hour of work to your working day,
Mm.
what would you do? What would you do to increase your income?
Yeah.
So think about that and then maybe follow those steps of that audit. And yeah, we'd love to hear what a difference that makes in
Yeah.
your.
Do you know what? That's a great question because even if you've not hit that income ceiling, isn't it nice to have a plan B in the back
Yeah,
pocket?
absolutely.
To just
It's
know what you
all
could do. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and we will see you next time.